and I'm an international student at the University of Johannesburg, undergraduate for tourism management. And my paper for today, or my topic for today's presentation, is Africa's new oil. And contrary to popular belief, everybody believes innovation is just technology, but there's different ways in innovation and diversity, and I'll present one. So for the past 20 years or so, the main source of income for the African continent and the main source of export as well has been natural resources. In a country like Angola, 90% of our GDP is made up of oil. So that means that we are completely dependent on the oil income. So I want to present a new oil that, well, can I claim I discovered? To our audience. More sabotage. Okay, so what is the new oil? The new oil is tourism. So I'll just give you a brief overview of what tourism is. And tourism is one of the world's largest sectors. It makes about 10.4% of the global gross domestic product. It employs globally around 313 million people. And it's also one of the most gender-balanced industries, which 4 out of every 10 people are women in the industry. And also, 36% of tourism-run businesses are run by women. So it's a very gender-balanced industry, and it's also an industry that creates employment for both skilled and unskilled people. So in recent years, there has been a lot of interest in tourism in Africa. So statistics from 2017 from the World Tourism Organization say that we received about 63 million international tourist arrivals in the continent. And out of those 63 million international arrivals, we've been able to make 37 billion US American dollars. So it's 37 billion US American dollars coming into the African continent. And you can now start to see the potential that this industry has, both for economic and for youth employment. And one last thing, it's a win-win. This industry is a win-win for Africa. Why? Because it's economic sustainable, it's socially integrating, and it's also environmental capable. Why? Because of the nature of the industry, we have to take care of the environment so that these destinations can run for the longest time possible. So this, in contrary to oil or natural resources, doesn't cause as much damage to the environment or pollution in general. So I'll go specifically now into Angola. Into Angola. In 2017, we received 261,000 international tourists, or international arrivals rather, and we made about $5 million US from those arrivals. And this industry in Angola employs about 111,000 people. So from the statistics, you can see the potential that this industry has, and if invested in, it could bring much more and employ much more people. And in Angola, what I just say now, it's not really being invested in at the moment. It's being talked about, but nobody's really putting money into it, but it still was able to bring $5 million US. So I just made a brief comparison from two sub-Saharan African countries that are both SADC members, which is South Africa and Angola in terms of numbers. On the one hand, in 2017, South Africa tourism contributed to 2.9% of the gross domestic product of the country, while in Angola, it was only 1.01%. South Africa was able to make 136 billion rand from tourism in 1 year, and Angola made in the same year, 2017, 70 million rands. And tourism in South Africa employed directly and indirectly about 1.5 million people, while in Angola it only employed 111,000 people. So this goes to show that when there's infrastructure in place and there's structure and people actually pay attention to this industry, it can be galvanizing for the economy, so much that now in the State of National Address, the president of the country of South Africa has stated that tourism is one of the industries that will hold South Africa for the future. So it can show you the importance of what tourism can do and what tourism can bring, and how this thing that we used to look at as not very important is now one of the things that will sustain the country. It's an innovative way or a diversified way to bring in money and to employ people. So going further, I will defend why tourism instead of any other industry. So why tourism? First, because tourism is an integrating industry. It's one of the most unique industries in the sense that once tourism is developed in a certain place, it involves everybody. I'll give you a practical example. If this theater becomes a destination that people want to visit, then what will happen is engineers will get involved to build it. People will have to build roads, so it will employ civil engineers and people that build roads. It will also employ restaurants, accommodation for tourists, transport, and you can see how so many facets for other industries correlate with tourism. Whilst in other industries or in other industries, if something's being done, for example, in oil, it's only for oil. It doesn't involve most industries. And one other reason why tourism is because it's entrepreneur-driven. So we all know, or many of us make assumptions, but we should know that the economies of countries are made of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are what create jobs or create employment, and they are what bring income into the country. So it's an entrepreneur-driven industry. When you study tourism, you normally study it to start an SMME. And it's very easy to start a tourism business because it doesn't have it doesn't need large amounts of income, of capital, like any other industry. So with a computer and knowledge of a certain place, you can start a business in that and start contributing into the GDP or into the economy of the country. And one last reason why tourism is because it's youth integrating. 50% of the labor force of tourism globally is 25 years and younger. And we know that the African continent the average age is about 22, 21. So it's an industry that falls into what Africa is, and Africa has the potential to develop it. So this is one of the ways, or a good industry that could employ or combat youth unemployment in the continent. So in conclusion, I want to say that we should harness our new oil, because this is our new oil. This is what can bring income for the future years to come, because now we know that natural resources can finish, and we'll have a sustainable economy. For example, in Angola now, there's a huge crisis because the oil prices dropped. So people lost jobs, couldn't pay rent, old people are moving back with their parents, and it's international investors are moving out because we couldn't get foreign income, because now we're not exporting as much. And it became a chaos, and just now is that the government is trying to diversify. So tourism will be able to combat that. Tourism cannot really finish, per se, as long as we do take care of the environment and that. So it's also an industry, as I said before, that is gender balanced, that's economic, sustainable, that's socially integrating. So it falls right into the agenda for 2063 and also for the Sustainable Development 2030 that have been set up by the United Nations for the African continent. So it's an industry that's already, by its own form, it's integrating into that. So this is why I believe this is Africa's new oil, and this is why I believe we should harness it. In conclusion, I want to say thank you. Those are my details. I want to say thank you to AYGS for the opportunity, University of Johannesburg, and for you to listen. Thank you very much.